Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Mother Sai. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. We shall now proceed with the afternoon session of the two-day Techonomics workshop. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome the first speaker for the session. I deem it my privilege to invite on stage Dr. Nutan Madiwal. Dr. Nutan Madiwal is an alumnus of Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur, and is also the recipient of the gold medal in MA Philosophy. Later, she went on to do her doctorate in Vedanta and Sri Satya Sai Educational Philosophy from the University of Mumbai. Dr. Nutan served as the Vice Principal in SVKMS, Pravin Gandhi College of Law, a premier institute in Mumbai, from where she later retired as the principal. Madam has presented a number of papers in national and international conferences. She is also keen on imparting skills to students and has currently entered into training, logical and critical thinking, and also interpersonal skills. Today, she'll be enlightening us all on the topic Legal Scepter and Women. Dr. Nutan.
Saira, my pranams at the lotus feet of our Lord. 30 years back, I was here on this campus. Just excuse me for me to get back to normal. A lot of memories. Okay. So we start off as the topic suggests legal scepter and women. What any one of you would like to think of that would be? Anyone would like to answer? Okay. We leave it at that. I have 2-3 activities for you, which you will be doing in due course of time. And therefore, we made an arrangement that at least there are 6 groups and there are 10 students in each group. Okay. You'll be passed a sheet after some time, which each one of you have to answer without discussing with others. It's an individual activity, first one. The second one is a group activity. So let's start off. All of you can see that? Yeah? I'm expecting you to answer. Choose any one geometrical figure and tell me how many of you have chosen the square. Oh, raise your hands properly, I can't see them. Only 5. Okay. Only 5, am I right? Yes? Okay. 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 The next is how many of you have taken the triangle? Okay, that's a good number. Okay. And the one for the spherical, the circle? Wow. And what happens to the diamond? Very few. Doesn't matter. Can you tell me why did you all choose this? At least I need 2-3 responses from you, as the first one is the square. So we were just 5 of us. So that's very limited number, 5 or 7 of us. But you can just give me anyone. Please feel free to express your points of view. Yes, who's the one? Yes. Shape is? Oh, you're relating it to the shape of the face. Okay. Any other reason? No, that's the only reason. Anyone else would like to say what it means? Okay. Only one response out of 7. Okay. And the next one was triangle. We had a good number. So at least I expect 3 of you to respond minimum. Anyone? Oh, you mean to say the others were not visible? Okay. Would you change your mind if you were to see all the shapes now? Okay, you're fixed to the triangle. Anyone else? Why did you choose the triangle was the question. Okay, okay. Anyone else? So we have, yes? Oh, it seems to be the above the three figures. Okay, that's also another way of looking at it. Yes, there are not right and wrong answers. Okay, it's just that we are looking at something. That's why the question is, who am I? How many of you know which is the square? What? Is this a square? Yeah, sure. And what's this? Are you sure? It's not a parallelogram, right? Not which one? The first one. Ah, is it? It's not a square. It's a rectangle. There. Okay, thanks, ma'am, for that. It's not a square. This I'm sure all of us know. And what about this jolly fellow? So those of us who went for the round, what did you understand by that? I want those opinions. That's going to help me. That's going to help me. Yeah. Circle is complete. Okay, so can you see me? Who am I? We identified them. And where we were, like, there was an error in understanding, ma'am has helped us by telling us it's a rectangle. Okay? The next is, can you see me? All of you are able to see the colored figures there? Is it of yellow color, the same color of your sari? Then blue. So you are able to see blue figures. Grayish blue. Okay. What about, how many of you know the properties of these? How many angles in a rectangle? Quick. Sure. And the total is how many degrees? It matches which with other figure? All. All figures will have 360, right? Or the circle will have more? Huh? Triangle will have less. 180. So it won't match with two figures or one figure. One or two. We are going back to school days to test our memory. Which is matching this and this is matching, right? Is this also matching in terms of degree? Except triangle. Thank you, ma'am, for that. Okay. So let's see. This was just a way to understand that we all perceive. That's the first question is, can you see me? Not me here, but those on the figures on the board. Okay. So the first thing was, why is this question asked? Because we had in the morning so many sessions on empowerment, and almost everything was given to us, simplified and explained to us that how we all can be self-empowered, one, and women empowerment, how it will be. So let's see what are the perspectives on these four figures. Actually, they represented the kind of personality we choose to be. Okay? So the ones who thought of square are firm, stubborn, dependable. Now these can be given, many more qualities can be given over there. You have the triangle, which is one-pointed. Okay? I'm not getting into the detail because you can read it. And the circle. You see of all these, one quality which is visible and which is different from others. That's what life is about. Be happy. Swami would often tell us, be happy. Okay, we move on to the next one. Now let's understand, because it's a legal scepter, it means we are going to have a legal perspective on the entire concept of women empowerment. So what are laws? Instead of us getting into details, I think it's there. Always laws would mean a set of rules. And if there's a rule, what is the next thing? There has to be a sanction. Suppose your friend comes and tells you, don't eat here. Will you agree to it? No. You'll say, who told you that we are not allowed to eat in this room? Right? You'll ask that. You'll ask for an authority. A sanction has to be there for something to be followed. Now, basically, law evolved. We all are living in a society where every aspect of our life is being touched by law. You look at this. If you're traveling by vehicle, there are traffic rules. If you want to go abroad, there are another set of rules. If you are as a citizen, the coming elections, I hope how many of you are 18 plus have to vote? How many of you decided that, okay, how will we vote? We are in Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. We are not allowed to go out of the campus. Will we be allowed to vote? I'm 18 plus. Do I have a voter's ID? Again. So you see, almost look at the recent thing which even Sir mentioned about the Gobi Manchurian. Again, there would be a law. Even though there are laws to regulate almost every aspect of our life, there is something that it provides. What it does then, what does it do? It provides us protection. It helps us to claim our rights. It helps us to regulate life, create an order. That's what the main purpose of law is. One of the main, but there are many purposes. So I'm not getting into more details now. Look at the perspectives on law. We understand what law might be, but law is a double-edged sword. Why do we say that? Let's take the recent examples of, I'm sorry I have to mention unpleasant things, but it's a fact of life, that we have the Domestic Violence Act, which was enacted in 2005, okay? Now, this Protection Against Domestic Violence Act actually was meant to protect people who are members in a domestic relation or staying. What has happened today is it's been misused. Even if a woman and a man are married and they want to separate out, they don't have good grounds, then one such step that the woman can take is just go and complain in the police station that there is violence against me. And actually, it may be the case or may not be the case. And therefore, law serves two purposes. It's for the benefits, like the knife, where we use a knife for cutting vegetables, fruits, or it's used as a weapon to defend yourself or kill another. So law is like that. So basically, I won't go into, so just to tell that it protects as well as it can be misused. That's a very important thing. And actually, it protects whom? Does it protect all of us? Does law protect all of us? Yes, definitely it protects all of us. So now we're coming to empowerment. I won't go into more details because morning 2 sessions we had plenty on empowerment. But like each of them said, I won't go into it, but I would like to say a word. So it's like that. Basically, it means self-confidence and self-worth. So when you are asked questions to give your perspectives on the square, the triangle, the circle and the diamond, was how do I stand up and express my point of view? Okay, that was a simple exercise to show that yes, I'm here and I can express my views. Okay, I won't get into, but I look at empowerment when transformation takes place. And this transformation can take place here at 3 levels. One is at the individual level, like who was the first speaker who told us that self-empowerment. And I look at it from Swami's, our founder, chancellor's point of view. I would say thought, word and deed. He would always say, vachas ekam, manas ekam, karman ekam, mahatman. So if you have unity in your thought, word and deed, that's enough. So this is something that we can do, and I'm sure it's my own personal experience. I've tried it. It does amazing things in your life. Okay, so that's one. Now imagine every individual is a member of a family or a society. Has to be. If I'm family, whether I'm married or not, I'll be a part of a family. Either they're a daughter, son, whatever relation, but I'm a part of a family and society. So how does this empowerment make a difference? It's in our interpersonal relationships. How do we interact? How do we relate to people around us? So the first important thing is respect ourselves and respect others. I'm going to just the outline of it. I won't get into, because ma'am, morning session was too good. He went into so many details of giving inputs as to where we can work upon ourselves, the first speaker. Then as national citizens, at national level. So we got one individual level, social level, national level. All the images of ladies achievers, which he showed, contributed to India or contributed to the world of knowledge, invention, innovations, so much. So you see, I'm not looking only at women right now, we are in women empowerment, but I'm just looking at analysis at the transformation that needs to take place. So we all are women. Why is a woman spoken about? I had a student in my class who said, why, he was a male student, of course. I teach in a co-ed college. So he said, why do you always talk about women? He was very annoyed with me when I spoke about something related to women empowerment. Then I said, just have a look at world around. No country is free of violence and discrimination against the feminine gender. No country is free. And therefore, the need to see that women get empowered. Okay? So, now coming to the thought, word, and deed at individual level, I looked at it at national level or a social level. National level, we have the policies which come up, thought level, policies being designed, made. Word level, the legislation, the statutes are or laws are executed or made, lawmaking body, legislation, and the last is implementation or execution. And this is where possibly we fail. So where was this thought, word, and deed unity? We have unity in thought and word, but not in deed. So how will it actually translate into something that has transformed itself? Okay, now, how does this empowerment, what are the dimensions of it? Everyone has looked at it, as I said, a topic which we should not deal much with, but I look at it, women relation. Everything starts with women's relation with rest of the members in the society. Is she as an individual? Is she as an individual given the kind of, is she acknowledged? Today we are much, much ahead. But in spite of this, let me tell you, even in cities, in towns, in rural areas, there are women who are doing extremely well. Extremely well, they're empowered. But there are still some who are educated, working, and yet they are subjugated by the family members. So it's very sad that even if I speak of a woman as a wife is treated as somebody who has to do all this work. That's it. In spite of your education, if you have read Indra Nooyi, you would see her mother said, you may be a president wherever you are, but when you come home, you are a mother and you are a wife. So your role changes and you need to. So I'm not saying that we need to carry the role which is outside, inside the house, but are we acknowledging the person? That's very important. Okay? And as a professional, I remember attending a trainee session where my trainer told me, whatever you may be outside, okay? Whatever you may be outside, the moment you're stepping inside the house, please hang that coat of your professional work outside the house. Because when we carry it home, it cannot be the same. It is a home, it's not a place for workplace. So that was a very nice. So coming to this, how did the discrimination start? Because of gender. Why did it start? Because of relation and how we look at her. And that's how the individual and the social. So everything starts off with one, what is that? Relation among us. Okay? So again, it comes to policies being made, legislations being made, and implementation. Now let's see. I'm coming to law specific. I'm touching upon family law more so. Because family law is one which guarantees us so many rights. How many of us are aware of it? As students of any institution, as people in the process of getting education, formal education, how many of us are aware? I have to confess that even I as a student never looked at law and the rights because we were in the divine presence. We didn't have to worry about anything. We just knew Swami, that's it. Our life centered around him. We didn't think whether we had this or this is our right. This is, no. It's only when I got married, went out, I realized there's so many aspects of it. So let's not be the frog in the well. Start knowing your rights. Now, knowing my rights and claiming my rights, does it give me a power to do what I want? This is a question to be asked. Just as I gave you that example of a person. Okay? You have, like I said, the law is a double-edged sword. How do I use it is very important. I have a right. Should my right I take to the triangle or the square, I become so stubborn on my right that I break the family. You understand? People get married and we break the family, not with intention of breaking the family. The intention is my right. So I want my right to be exercised. I want to feel presence of the property, etc. You must have come across, read stories about industrialist families falling out of each other's relationship because of property. Okay, so what are the rights that we have? Property rights for women was not there, for a daughter was not there till 2005. It's much later in 2000 that they incorporated the right to property. So what would happen if there's a married woman, she had no say in the property of the family, that is a father's property. But today, men and women, sons and daughters have equal right, whether she is married or not married, but she has a right. Now, why should I know about it? Should I know and should I fight with my brother and say, no, no, give me my right? No. It is just to be aware that we are not helpless. Because we also cherish what our father would have given us or made something. So keeping that in mind, it's always better to be aware. Now coming to marriage. How many of you think live-in relationship is better than marriage? I hope you know what live-in relationship and today to speak of a couple is also very difficult because we have gender free. Okay, but I'm talking of a man and a woman. Okay, I know there are lesbians, there are gays, there's so many people who want different kinds of relationship. How many of you know live-in relationship is where there are no formal ties? There's no law which tells them that this is when we live together. We have chosen, see the freedom given to man and woman, which the Constitution guarantees in the beginning itself in the preamble, that all people will be treated equally. Okay, so they decide to live together. What happens if they choose to part ways? Will the law help them? You sure? Oh, you're not, ma'am, they're not allowed to use their phones here, no? Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is just one example of telling you that, right, when a couple who lives in a live-in relationship, do they have a right to divorce? There cannot be a divorce because it was not a valid marriage. When is a marriage valid? Oh my God, you need to read the personal laws, Hindu law, Parsi, Muslim, Islamic. All of them have a set of procedures which tell that this marriage is valid. When, in case of Hindu law, the Shaptapadi is must. Okay. In Parsi law, they have some other procedure. There has to be one priest whom they call a particular name, and only then the law marriage would be valid. So it goes like this. Okay. So valid marriage, if there is a valid marriage, then you can speak of a divorce, not otherwise. Okay. Then right over one's body, abortion. Should a child be born only after marriage? Should a child be born before marriage? Debatable issues. My God, I'm sure it is for philosophy students in bioethics, they must be dealing it somewhere. I'm not very sure, but definitely. Does a woman have a right on her body? No? How many of you, why do you say no? I'm happy that somebody has said no, but why? Yes, speak up.
Ma'am, in recent Supreme Court's order about right to termination of pregnancy of after 24 weeks, in that the lady, which this case I saw, the lady was not mentally stable or I would say not mentally prepared for that. And she was seeking court's help, but because of the law which was made in 2021, she was prohibited to terminate the pregnancy. And this would actually affect the whole family altogether, which were 5% in total. And then the baby will born and then all these things will happen. So I guess the women have no right. Still they are lacking somewhere.
Okay. Thanks for that input. That's a recent happening, but I would suggest that this sort of a thing is an exceptional case. Otherwise, every woman has a right over a body. Okay? You can stop someone from even, there's a famous saying, political science teachers might know. Your freedom ends where my nose begins. So that's a right that woman enjoys, okay, over a body. Okay? So then we come to financial independence, the last session which we had. Yes.
Ma'am, just now you were speaking about personal laws. And now recently we have the Uniform Civil Code, which is also related.
I'll come to, I will be taking few landmark cases, that's the time.
Yeah,
but
yes, ma'am.
We won't be taking the Uniform Civil Code, though it has been pending from I think 1986 or something. It's going to be a very tough change which is going to come in. Lot of repercussions of it on every community that is there with a particular religious background. There's a lot more to it. Okay, so we come to economic, financial independence. Why? Like Sir said, if you're financially independent, you have a more say. Your words will have more power. That's one way. Safety at home. This is another thing which is bothering us. protection of women at public space, private and workplace. So we have laws which have come up for these. So after the Nirbhaya case, I'm sure all of you know the Nirbhaya case, there was this need to bring about a law which will prevent rape. Okay, but if you see, more and more rapes have taken place. Nothing much has been done. Children have been raped, babies have been raped. It's like unbelievable. But there is a law. Now again, where did it fail? There was the policy, there was the thought, there was the word, legislation. Where did it fail? Indeed, execution. Okay. So we move on. Is this something new for us? Political science students should be able to tell me. Right for women has been incorporated from 1920s, and these are international conventions and treaties which went on to support women empowerment. And even today, if you look at the UN sustainable goals, in that one of the goal is gender equality. And in that gender equality, we need to be ensuring that women are empowered through skills, whatever. There are different ways of doing it. I'm not getting into. Again, see the rights, fundamental constitution of India. Is it a part of your political science? Then you should be knowing all the articles, Article 14, 15 and 16. See, everywhere they are providing equality to women and protecting fundamental rights. These are the laws. There are many more, but these are the most important. How many of you have heard of dowry? Okay. Everyone has is it prevailing today? Any one of you know of a case? Okay. Yes, I have two hands being raised. Can you share, please? Can you please share your views? Yes? Who raised? Last bench, somebody. Yes, sorry, last row. Yes, please stand up.
Saira ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm from a remote village and I see a lot of cases like everyone receives dowry and gives dowry there. But they don't say dowry, but they say it as a gift. Why can't I gift my daughter?
Okay.
Why can't I give gifts to my son-in-law? And it depends on the son-in-law's designation also. Like if he is doing a very good job, then he will receive a very good dowry. Yes, ma'am, his rate increases.
Okay. So, do we have something called, what do you call, the worth of a boy who, eligible bachelor who is ready to get married? Is there a eligibility for in terms of worth?
Yes, ma'am.
Dowry.
And
Yes?
also, if the girl is educated, then it will be a little less. And if the girl is not educated, it will be more again.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Anybody else wanted to say yes?
Ma'am, I belong to Madhya Pradesh and there is a community which is Kauravs. So they have a system where they do Mangani, the engagement ceremony. And in that, first they have to put 18 lakh, 20 lakh. No matter which economical background they belong to, but they have to put 18 lakh first, then only they will proceed to marriage. And then also, no matter what the boys do or what the girls do, even though they both are employed, they still have to put at least 30 to 50 lakh aside just for giving as a dowry. They call it openly as a dowry.
Achha.
So
Your state government is not doing anything over there in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, the last row. There's somebody in the last row.
Ma'am, there is not something which I saw outside. It's in our family. When my sister got married, it's like the guy's side, they requested for a bike and then also for a money. But then now they are not currently together. Like she doesn't want to stay with him. They got divorced and all. But then the thing is that if they get dowry, if they take dowry also, there is no safety given to the woman.
Safety
Like, yeah,
provided to the woman. Yes. One more. Yes.
Saira ma'am, I'm from Kalimpong. Actually, in my cultural background, the case is very different. I am a person who knew that something like dowry exists through TV serials.
Okay. So you
Because-
don't have that concept of
No,
dowry.
ma'am. No concept of dowry. In fact, in my culture, the girl side is more demanding that, hey guys, you are taking our daughter, you should pay us. Kind of, you should fulfill our demands. And if something happens to like our daughter who goes to guy's family, we can even steal our daughter, like give us our daughter back, and we happily accept them to our home again.
Okay. Madhu ma'am wants to say something.
like I didn't say anything. I said, 7 sisters? She said, yeah, ma'am. I mean, not ma'am. That time she called me, being my classmate. She says, yeah, in our case, we don't have any problem. It's the boys' side who gives to the girls' family. That is one thing. And I also wanted to tell you that in Marwadi community, I had a student, when I was doing invigilation, he was copying and I caught him. Then I told him, I said, why you have been doing this? He says, ma'am, you don't know. I'm doing all this to get this degree. Because if I complete this degree, my rate in the, will go up. He said, I will get better dowry. No intention of studying. It is just that he wanted to, cheat and pass, get a BA degree, and then he would get better dowry from the girls' side. So this is what. This is when I was teaching in a government college, and we had to do invigilation. And he had chits at all possible places, socks, bed, collar, everywhere. And I couldn't stop it. I stood there. I said, no, whatever you have, you give me. Then later on, he told me, he said, ma'am, this is the reason why. I said, you spent... Yeah, dowry. I said, you spent so much time in making chits. You could have as well studied.
I know.
But then this is it. So different communities it is. But in people in hilly areas, no,
Have
they
a
don't
different-
have this thing.
Uh-huh. I want to know how many of the girls believe that we should not be taking dowry? And how many of you will oppose if your parents are giving it? How many of you will refuse to marry if your parents are giving it? Thank you for that. I hope you keep to your commitment. Because this is something which has to come from the girl and the boy, the people who want to get married. Because parents are the ones who decide for us, but we need not give in to this sort of understanding where it leads later to many complications. Like she shared, one of your classmates shared that her sister got divorced because of the dowry case. Yes.
There was a case in Bombay in a lower middle class family where the girl and the boy were engaged, and in the mandap, they make the scene and they asked for money. Then the girl took the cue. She declared, gave a piece of her mind, and dragged her dad away from the thing. Father was very embarrassed, and it was all happened, but he stood by the daughter. This was covered in newspaper. It became a huge thing, though they were shunned in their community because of that. But this girl had a very tough time at work. When she went to work, people would pass comments and all this happened. But eventually, they were broad-minded guys, who appreciated her position and came forward to marry her without a dowry.
Thanks for that. Ma'am has led us to the next topic, that is sexual harassment of women at workplace. I won't get into details of it, but even passing of a comment can be treated as a harassment. Okay, this is something that we all as women should be aware of. What action should we take? That's one. So I think we've got some insight into what the law can do to us. Currently, there was a lot of study. I would like you all to go and check on shadi.com. Not that you need to look for a partner there. Okay. It is just to understand whenever it's allowed. I know mobiles are not allowed here. So whenever you go home or something, just check on shadi.com. They have come up with an amazing thing. What's your worth? Okay. And they've made an heard of Angry Birds? Cartoons. So similarly, they have made an angry bird. And there, if you click and you tell who you are and what you are, they'll give you the worth of the person. Suppose I am a MBA, then I put my worth, and they'll say this will be your dowry prize, okay? Dowry prize it is called. And when you click on it, they will show how many people actually are dying, how many women are dying in that 1 second that the click goes on moving. So it creates awareness. Another interesting study was in Bihar. You know what they did? They asked the youth, give solution for dowry. They said, those who ask for dowry should pay that amount to the government. That was, I think, a very unique way, but I don't know how they would do it. But simply another youth of Bihar also said that they should be made to do some social work. Now, there are different things, but this is on a lighter note that I have shared, but it is definitely there. Bihar government has done quite a bit. Of course, it's not Bihar presently. Okay. Now, these are the landmark cases. Why am I mentioning? I won't get into the details. But in 1981, air hostesses had to retire at the age of 35. And if she became pregnant, she cannot come back. But today it's not the case, thanks to the law. Then we have Vishaka. This is regarding workplace. Now, Vishaka Shahani was not the person, that's an NGO which took up the case of a girl in Rajasthan who was educated and who was on this duty of imparting, creating awareness to stop child marriage. Okay? And when she did that, can you believe the panchayat members, 5 panchayat members, gang raped that girl because she should not be doing it. Okay, then the NGO took up a case. It went to the Supreme Court. There was no law in India at that time. Okay, they looked at international treaties and cases, and then they decided that a workplace need not be a formal setup like this, but wherever the work takes you. So a field work is also a workplace. And that's how then we have the post-sexual harassment prevention of that. Then we have Shah Banu case, a very well-known case. This is a Muslim personal law. Triple talaq. Remember so much of debate in last 2-3 years. Triple talaq, no maintenance given. She went to the court. That's where the self-empowerment comes. She decided to fight and see that she gets something out of it. And the court decided that they need to be giving maintenance. So that's on a personal. Then we have Audrey DaCosta. This is on equal pay. And still, like Sir pointed out in the morning, at one level they might be equal, but at some level there is not equal pay at all. Okay, are we aware of government schemes and which help women to do so many things? So I have just listed, there are many, 15, 20 cases, schemes are there, but I have just taken one. So do we think that only Modi government brought in change? No. The schemes were available even when other parties were in power. So let's not associate party with the government, but government does its role. So this was in 1969. There was this short stay home for women and children, which provided shelter to women who were single, who were destitute, who didn't have anywhere to go for a short period, so that they feel safe, and then accordingly, in due course of time, they would move out. Mahila Shakti Kendra, this is inaugurated, it was planned out in 2017. Financial assistance if any one of us want to become entrepreneurs. There is more to it, okay? Srivastav sir there are lots of documents to be filled up and lot of things that are required, that is from NABARD. But any bank you go, there'll be many things to be done if you have to get this financial assistance. This is another after Nirbhaya, one-stop center and universalization of women helpline. Now this is something very unique. Anywhere you go, you could call out to these people and they are there to help you by way of police, by way of NGOs, by way of other people. Then Swati is the latest, 2-3 days back, it was in the news, which went on to say that women scientists nowhere to be seen. So this was again revived on 23rd of December 2023, 22nd or 23rd of December, where they are encouraging women scientists or women to participate in scientific innovations and development. Now I stop here. I have some sheets been passed on. Please do not share with anyone else. You have just 30 seconds should be enough. Ma'am, distribute it just there. None of you should be opening it till we say open. Once you all have received it, just say yes. Don't open it. Don't look at each other. Don't. Once the last row receives it and you say yes, then you raise your hand and I'll say yes, your time starts now. If we had, ma'am said 68 pieces, no? 70, yes, she said 70. Where did okay, how many of you have it? That's okay. Let it be. How many of you have it? No, ma'am, if you share, then the fun is gone. Sharing is not allowed here, I'm sorry. Please don't open it. Okay. Where did Sujana go? She had some. Ah, yes, 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 yes. Fold it. Fold it. We just tell Geeta ma'am about it because it should not happen. She'll get some. Don't open it, okay? No. Last row is raising their hand. That means have you. Okay, you didn't receive. Ma'am, 30 seconds should be enough for you all to answer it. I need. All have received? Everyone, anyone who has not received a sheet? There's one hand, Suma ma'am. That's it. It's meant for students, ma'am. Okay. Okay. Lifelong learning. Okay. Your times. Okay. No need to collect, ma'am. They can keep it for themselves. Ma'am, will you just keep the time? Somebody has to keep. Anyone? All have received? Sir, are you keeping the time? There are 10 questions. Okay? 30 seconds should be enough. 30 seconds. Okay? Sir, 1 minute is too much. Sir, can we start? Yes. Your time starts now. Self-empowerment. Time up. Time up. Stop, stop. Done? Just sir was keeping time. Time up. Okay? How many of you say you've done exactly what the paper says? Exactly what the paper says. Yes, the girl who raised her hand first. Yes. You did exactly what the paper says? All the questions? Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Yes. Okay. Okay. How many of you followed instruction number 9? Got it? Okay. I hope you enjoyed that exercise. Yeah? Okay, once again, good afternoon. Sai Ram. This entire one sheet of 10 questions was only to indicate to us how we read, because I come from a law background. We need to, not just because of law background, but we need to be very observant. We need to be very clear. Again, I'm not going to repeat what Srinath sir, if I'm right, gave us a lot of inputs on. Okay? So when I get a sheet of paper, if I have to work on it, I need to at least glance at it once. We knew we had to tick mark or use our pen. We knew we had to answer, and that's how straight down we went in answering it. And some of us also said A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. And we also wished good afternoon. Okay. Now, as you all are seated in group of 10, here comes, okay, why have I put the contributors to women empowerment? Remember, none of us would be here without the support of a family. None of us. We wouldn't have been here. Whether I am a teacher, any one of us. Even sir is here because his wife is supporting him. It's not just because he's the breadwinner. Sorry, sir, nothing personal, but so each of us are here because we have a support system. That is something that we need to acknowledge. So now let's look at women empowerment, the history. I'm not going into history. Social reformers. Can you name some social reformers? When? Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Dayanand Saraswati, Ambedkar. Very good. So we have so many. We have Western thinkers also who have contributed to a non-government organization. Anyone would like to mention any? Kali Shri Shakti, Nari Vimukt Association. There is one association for that. Now coming to bystander. Who is a bystander? A passerby, stranger, or a neighbor. Now, I would love if you all could just check out on Australian government. Don't think I love my India, but India is also connected to the rest of the world. Okay? So I need to know something of what's happening elsewhere where it's good thing is happening. So in Australia, there are laws which help bystanders to protect any kind of harassment or violence against women. In India, ma'am, if a violent situation is happening of a man or woman, or however the situation, if any bystander or passerby goes, they will be in trouble. So we don't get into it. There are some who dare to do it, but in India it's very difficult situation. But abroad, especially in Australia, there is a law which says if you're a bystander and you go to help them, you will be protected. And therefore, there is intervention of a bystander there. I do not know, maybe you all were kids about 10 years to 15 years back. Boman Irani, if you have heard of maybe he's one of the well-known actors. He had come up, there was this government scheme or an NGO which was working on Bell Bajao. Check it on YouTube, you'll get it. Bell Bajao. What was Bell Bajao? Suppose there's a neighboring house, there's fight going on, and you can hear screams and you can hear fights. You just have to go and ring the bell. You're intervening, you're breaking that disturbance that's happening in that house. You know? So these are very simple things. You're not known. The person will not know who rang the bell, but some sort of a contribution you've done. What are the means? Of course, we have the legal means, we have the social means. I would also like to, now we are coming to case studies. Okay, I'll give you facts. As a group, discuss and tell me what will be the solution. So we have exactly 5 minutes. My session is supposed to get over at 3:20. I request, ma'am, that I get about 5 minutes more so that the students are able to. No. Okay. So these are the cases. So we have group number 1 sitting in the first 2 rows. Yes, the next group is where? Next. The third is there. Fourth, the last one. We start from the last 2 rows are the fourth group. The fifth. Why the third line is quiet over there? Don't do that. Be a part of any one of the groups. Either be part of 4 or 5. I think we have more students. Doesn't matter. You may choose. So the first case, first group, facts of the case. Can you read? You have just, should I read it out? Okay. Mr. X and Mr. Y were good friends for a year and decided to get married. Suddenly, Mr. Y fell ill. He was admitted to the hospital. Blood reports revealed that he was HIV positive. You know, HIV positive is a dangerous disease. There's no cure as yet for it. Miss X, the fiancée, was informed about it. She changed her mind and informed Mr. Y. What happened next? What do you think should be the take of the Miss X or Mr. Y? What could be done by them? The clue is course of action taken by both the parties. Then we go to the next case. Okay. At the age of 20, the second group, at the age of 20, Miss A was married to Mr. B, a clerk in a private firm. 2 years later, on a rainy night, Mr. B, his mother and married sister, pushed Miss A out and 1-year-old child outside the house, I mean. So future of the child, man and the woman. What happened next? Who would have taken action? What action can be taken? What would be your perception of the case? I hope you are getting a clarity. Should I give you an example? No need, right? Okay, the third one, the last row. Miss C was appointed in Slim Airline as an air hostess. On the 5th day of her duty, a passenger winked at her and asked her for a date. Legal action or no legal action? Or any other? Okay, you just have 5 minutes, remember this. I can't be taking away Suma ma'am's time. Okay, then, case number 4, a couple lived happily for 12 years. It was a love marriage. On Monday, in the month of March 2006, the woman receives a legal document, divorce papers. She refuses to sign on the paper as she is worried about the future of their 10-year-old son. Who takes the custody of the child? I'm not saying we all know law, but at least we can commonsensically think and give some answer to this. The next one, that side, Mr. G and Mr. D were in a live-in relationship for 10 years. Live-in relationship, that's more than that. We've had Barkada taking somebody's interview who have lived for 17 years. Okay? in the 11th year, they decided to part ways. The reason was mental abuse and physical assault. Do they split or reconcile? The last group, those sitting behind Sharda ma'am, Arunima ma'am and Venkat Lakshmi ma'am. In the last 1 year, the number of dating apps are used regularly by women and men. Mr. J meets Mr. R on a particular weekend and they continue to meet for the next few weekends. Miss R discovers she is pregnant. Who is at fault? So you have exactly, I'm sorry for taking contemporary issues. They are a little bold, but that's something that's happening, so I said they are aware. So what's the time now, ma'am? 3:20. 3:21, 4 minutes more. Then you have to speak 3 minutes more. You will also be joining a group. Don't sit away. Any one of you can answer now. Yes. Group 1 is answering, yes. Ma'am, please give your inputs the rest of the... Yes. Yes.
Saira ma'am,
Saira.
for the first case, since HIV is a STD, so they could, the last line is she changed her mind and informed Mr. Y. So the 3 situations that our group thought of was either they decide not to get married, or they decide to get married and adopt a child, and the other cases they decide to get married and not have a child.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it was a real case. It's known as a hospital Z versus Y case where the confidentiality of a patient's condition was revealed. That's one of the law. A doctor is not supposed to reveal the confidential information about a person's health. But in this case, what your answers are perfectly fine. There's no right and wrong in it. But this lady withdrew. She chose not to marry him. And he is the one who said this is not right because he wanted her to marry her. And that's the time when the court intervened and they said there was a breach of confidentiality. That was a case that Mr. Y put it. But the court said, in this particular case, because it is HIV/AIDS, she had all the right to know, and otherwise it would infect her, and then possibly she would die. So that is how it was. That was a case. Okay. The next one, who's going to speak? So your answers are perfectly fine because what happened next, none of us are sure. Because this was a decided case, I could tell what the answer is. Yes.
Saira ma'am, Ma'am, in this case, they are legally married, they are not legally divorced. So, the first immediate thing is it's a rainy night and it's not safe. So, she has to go to the police station first and get the FIR filed. And the next thing is if she wants to uh, get divorced, she can. And if she doesn't want to get divorced, she wants to stay in that house, she has the right to stay in that house. And the future of the child is if they are together, then the child's future is taken care of. And if they are not together, that means if they are divorced, the husband has to pay alimony to the wife. And then the future of the child, the education of the child should also be taken care of in that
You
regard.
think the father can have the right of the child?
No, ma'am.
Laws are changing. Laws are changing nowadays.
Ma'am, actually, in that tender age, child will be with the mother only. And then later, it can have the decision, like the child can decide.
Courts are changing their ways of perceiving today. So I wouldn't give a definite answer. What you're saying is right. Till about 8 to 10 years, it is the child is kept with the mother, and then there is a change. Okay, thanks for that answer. Good. Group 3, airline.
Ma'am, actually it depends on the way the girl takes it, ma'am. Like first of all, if she feels like insecure and uncomfortable, she would have gone and complained the higher authority. If not, some people will be like, they'll take it so cool, they'll be like, why to do this? They'll directly inform to that person only that I didn't like that situation, whatever he did. She should take action if there is any further thing happening other than this.
Okay, thank you. Anyone? Yes. Suma ma'am, you'll have to repeat what you're saying because it's important.
Saram. So basically, when you look at sexual harassment or some kind of workplace or when any kind of aggression, they have definitions. But today, the law also considers what we call as microaggression. Microaggressions can be gestures, comments, acting like you don't exist, any kind of these things, which I will talk about eventually, is there. These are also considered in law. So the winking and asking for a date, which is actually a microaggression, can be reported and can be legally also dealt with.
Thank you, ma'am. The next group, are you ready? Group 4 or 5, 6? 4, yes.
Sairam, ma'am.
Saira.
Since that child is a minor, he should go with his mother to give financial support. Their father should give money to grow his child, ma'am.
Okay. That's the only answer you all have? Okay. Nobody is thinking of putting the child in the orphanage. No? Don't you think that would be a better option? She's refusing to sign. Sign, yeah. Okay, that's one of the ways you analyze, possibly. That's good answer that you all have given. That obviously the child will, but the child has a right to choose. 10-year-old child, that's why. The last two.
Saira ma'am, I think they should split
Saira.
because we see they're not happy together. Maybe we don't know who is the victim, the girl or the boy. So I feel they should like spread apart.
So your class group discussion said that it's better they split.
Yeah, ma'am, because it's
Then
a
they can.
toxic relationship. So
Very good. Good. Okay. The last one. The last one. Time up for me. What happened? Who's going to speak?
Sairam, actually we could not come to a particular conclusion or judgment that whose fault it is, because it is mentioned that from in the last 1 year, like dating apps has been very prevalent among men and women, and this Mr. J and Mrs. R, they met for a weekend and that girl gets pregnant. That girl might have been pregnant before they met with each other, and if it in the case after meeting both of them, if this case has happened with both of their consent, then it is not really illegal. They can get married later also. And as like our constitution has provided something, as we discussed, that for live-in relationships as well. But however, from a religious point of view, or from a very our spiritual or maybe our cultural point of view, it will be very wrong to get pregnant before marriage. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. I hope it made you all think a little differently. All these are nothing but ways to look at how we can empower ourselves and how we as persons can contribute in empowering others. Okay? And especially women. We come to the last. What do I take away from an institution like Swami's institution? I think the entire stay here has been a training ground for us. For me, I would personally say yes. It has taught me, and I am where I am because of Swami's institution. Okay? And I think we need to be the good Samaritan sometimes, if not all the time, where we stand by our family, relatives, friends, neighborhood, workplace. If you feel there's a need, please step ahead, say Sai Ram, and help, but be cautious that you don't get into a wrong way of helping people. That's my way of saying. There was a video which I wouldn't be showing right now. Okay, so with that I thank all of you, and I thank Geeta ma'am and all my teachers and my colleagues who are here. It was a pleasure to be back on this campus. Thank you. Sai Ram. You will play? How many? 1 minute. Okay, ma'am is ready to play that video. What was the other one? I don't remember.
Once upon a time, in a country bustling with opportunity, a baby girl is born, a tiny princess to her adoring family. While she is treasured and protected by all who love her, her story won't unfold as the simple fairy tale they would like it to be. This is my story, and the story of women everywhere. It's the story of women taking control of their own destinies, women of courage, passion, persistence, innovation, compassion, and determination. It's about those who dare to break barriers. It's no easy task taking the road less traveled, but at the end of the day, the appreciation is worth it. Remember, the most interesting stories are not of those who had it easy. We rise, we fall. But what's important is that we find our inner strength and stand tall. Women, know your value. Wear your crown. Write your own story. We believe there's no limit to what you can accomplish. Happy Emirati Women's Day.
Sai Ram once again. I'm sorry to eat into her time again. Uh, I'm very happy because, as I said, I'm coming back after so many years. I need to share that I belong to the first batch of B.Ed students. And we were very fortunate. We were very fortunate to have studied in Vrindavan campus. And the way Swami has treated us, because we were the first. Till then, Swami never had campuses ever mixed. We could never even meet or any such thing. But the first batch we had the privilege of going to Trai. And ma'am was our warden, our teacher. She was everything for us over there. It was very, happy memories and lots too. Okay, a lot of happy memories and lot of learning. It was a wonderful time that we had in the first batch. So, women empowerment started when 68, when the college foundation was there. But this is, I wanted to share personally. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam, for such an interactive session and for rendering to us all a very thought-provoking insights on legal perspective of women empowerment. Now I request Professor Madhukapani madam, former director of the campus, to present memento to Dr. Nutan. Now, it is my honor to invite the next speaker on stage, Dr. U. Suma Rao. Dr. U. Suma Rao completed her BCom and BA degrees from Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur. As a student, she received the all-rounder gold medal from the institute. Dr. Suma continued her higher education and acquired her PG degrees in MCom and MEd from Annamala University. Madam then joined her alma mater as a teacher in 1998, where she currently serves as the associate professor and also as the dean of the Department of Management and Commerce. In 2012, Madam received the Sai Krishna Award for her excellence in teaching from Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. She then completed her doctoral thesis on the topic, an exploratory and descriptive study, exploring structure and agency in the areas of work-life balance and gender bias. Today, Madam will be speaking on the topic, agency in women with specific reference to corporate women. Dr. Suma.
Om Shri Sai Ram. My humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. And I think today Madhu ma'am has the entire alumni organization here. So many of us who have studied in her classroom are here today. And so basically, I face a very daunting task. We have had excellent speakers who have covered most of the issues. And then they have also said that women are more intelligent, which means we have to prove it. Then there is another problem is that we have what you call as post-lunch anesthesia. And we have to combat this also. So given all that, I'm just wondering how I'm going to negotiate something which is as heavy as agency in women. So what I am going to do is kind of go fast on things which have been repeated. I did try to do some kind of last-minute edit to my the PowerPoint, thinking whatever has been covered, I shoot it off, and then I realized I might be left with only half. So that is the danger. So what I would like to do today is to talk to you about agency. And since most settings have been already covered, I'm moving into a setting which I'm familiar with, which is corporate women. Now, when the good thing about social changes, or I was reading the gender gap report of 2023, and then they say that it will take 131 years to achieve complete gender parity around the world. That means if you want to get global gender parity, it will take nothing less than 131 years, given the rate at which we are going. Now, when I read that, while it's a very dismal figure, it made me feel a little comfortable on one account, that much of my research, which is 10 years old, is still relevant. So having said that, I'm going to tell you about agency, and what I liked about my research when I look back upon it is that I met some remarkable women. I almost met about 125 executive women across India, and each person that I spoke to, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to these confident and remarkable people. But I learned a lot in the bargain, so what I'm going to tell you about is agency. Now, because we come from the Satya Sai background, which emphasizes so greatly on culture and on our heritage and the values, and we always say women uphold values. They are the cultural custodians of any culture. And so when we hear all this, we get a confusion. How are we supposed to uphold values, and how are we supposed to be modern together? Is this possible? Is this feasible? What is the marrying point of these two? So I am going to try to address that question too in this few talk, and I hope there are some takers for that. So number one, let me talk to you about agency. This word agency actually refers to a lot of things which you've already heard this whole morning about, control over your life, about control over resources. You also spoke about, an autonomy and empowerment, and the ability to have power, the ability to influence others. All of these definitions are basically proof of agency. Agency here meaning the ability to act, and you can do that when you are given all these kind of things. We also understood that there are a whole lot of barriers to this. And if you look at barriers, some of them are very personal, individual. Like, I don't want to improve. I don't have the will to improve. This could be a completely internal barrier. And then you have all legal barriers, again, legal empowerments and legal issues, which Nutan Didi covered for you. And other than that, also, you can see that we also looked in the whole day on, lack of access, whether it's financial or resources or every other thing. We also spoke about societal norms, which kind of, specify how a woman should behave or what she's permitted to do and what she didn't do. In fact, when you took this whole thing about dowry, and dowry we know, again, it's illegal, but we also know it's socially prevalent. The reason is society does not change as fast as the law changes sometimes. Then the law changes, but law puts what is correct into the forefront. But whether we follow the law is a different reason. So the question is, how does society change? What is the role we can play in societal change? Is society change good or bad? Are there something like this? These are also questions we should think, which is something which again comes down to our decision making on, do we alter, how do we alter our life? How do we make sure that the good things in our culture are retained, and at the same point of time, we achieve more equitable, modern ways of lives, okay? Now, the reasons for it, or why is agency important, is also something which is covered a lot. Like, even just if you're looking at 50% of your population is female, then you have, for economic growth, you need to bring women up. That is a logical conclusion. Similarly, individuals as a have right to have fulfilled lives, and so do women have the right to have fulfilled lives. We also see that social progress is also dependent on women and men together. And so it is important, you cannot have half of the, in fact, they say, tell me how does your nation treat women, and we'll tell you whether you're developed or not. That is the way. Development itself is measured on the way women are treated in that country. So we look at all these things, and so we understand that agency is important. But now let's look at agency in women. And I'm going to give you some statistics to just show you where we are. And then we'll go into this whole naughty question about societal values versus individual values. So firstly, if you look at from the year 1951 till now, a lot of things have changed, okay? So if you look at your great-great-grandmother and yourself, there's a whole lot of difference. My grandmother was married when she was 8 years old. And then if I look at my mom, she was educated. She had finished her degree by the time she got married. She chose not to do a postgraduate, but she was allowed. And in my case, I'm another step advanced. I didn't get married at all. So you see, generation to generation, there have been changes, and these are permissible or accepted changes in our society. Nobody's questioning you for having made these choices. So is there more empowerment for women? Certainly. But then is that a universal truth in all the countries? No. And are there pockets where there is greater empowerment and there is lower empowerment in some places? Yes. So we're going to look at all that here and just put a few things like today the average age for marriage, though the average age is 22, there are people who can get married even till 40. So there is no such thing. Women are likely to bear 2 children now. In fact, I can say 1 would be a more real thing. And if you don't have 1, you can adopt a dog, which is the latest trend. I mean, really. So there are all sorts of things like that. And then we also see that maternal mortality has reduced. And this is not true just for rich India. It's also true for poorer India, that mortality rates have gone down for women during pregnancies. But if I look at my great-grandmother's time, then women used to die in childbirth, and very often men had to go into a second or third wedding only to take care of the children because they had such young children at home. So we have heard all these stories in our family, so you know that things have changed from that time. And today, you know, literacy rates, actually the morning they were asking what the literacy rates, we have actually a 77% literacy rate according to some statistics in India. Now, also many people have covered to you a whole lot of women empowerment programs. I'm not going to read them, but there are plenty of women empowerment programs. So let's say whatever we see today is the collective effort of a lot of people over the years. Okay, so there has been definite improvement in terms of where women are today. However, look at 2023 gender gap. And look at this ratio. We are 127th rank in 146 countries. Okay, that's not a very nice rank. But it is way better than the previous year when we were almost 135. Okay, so from 135 to 127 is a good jump. That means our efforts are paying. But if you look at the top positions in this global gender rank, then Iceland comes first actually, as you can see there. And all the Nordic countries come in those ratios. And you know those countries are highly equal to both the genders. In fact, we used to have Professor Prusen from Denmark, and Mrs. Prusen, she's herself also a writer in her own rights. And I remember every time we used to have discussions with Professor Prusen, he would call her and say, Kristen, what do you think about what Dr. Suma says? So, you know, we used to have these conversations where she used to always be a part of it, and she had a differential view, and we would have long hours of argument. And it was very beautiful to see the respectful treatment that both of them gave each other. I think that's also a cultural streak in the Nordic countries. In the Denmark, Finland, and Sweden. Now, the gender score, of course, you can see this. This is 2022 rank, and it was 135. And if you look at all other things also, these are the composite ranks which India ranks in terms of gender parity. Now, one of the big issues, I think you all must be aware of a whole lot of feminist movement, right? I mean, we have had radical feminism, natural feminism, this feminism, that feminism. Now, we also have a concept called womanism, if you know that. And so in all the isms, where Sir was talking to you about the right to vote and how they fought about it. Now, there is also some of the feminists who believe that the GDP calculations should include unpaid work. Because that is also work. It's work which supports economic work. So there was a whole lot of argument on whether, you know, we should include unpaid work. And actually, women perform most of the unpaid work. And you can see the ratios are different. Globally, women do about 3 times as much unpaid care work as men. In India, it is 9 times. In the US, it is 2 times. So country to country, the understanding of gender. See, I used to always believe, okay, the Western people, you know, they are very open. So the gender equality is higher in the West and lower in our countries. I thought, till I discovered otherwise. You know, when you look at corporate figures, in the US and most of the Western countries, a woman has a choice between career and family. It's either or. Only in India, 90% of it is and. That means I can have my family also, and I can do a career also. It's and. And that is because we have a huge, strong cultural, belief, a collectivist culture, which believes in family. And so family comes first, and then comes work, you see. But there what happens is, family is a big investment. In the sense, women and men have to do all the work themselves. There is no thing of paid servants there. You do everything, from shoveling snow, to washing your dishes, to changing everything you only do. So the amount of physical work is huge. So no wonder the partners share work. While in a country like ours, where the whole dimension works differently, there is a possibility of having, joint families, or, people work helping you to manage all these jobs, etc. So the whole paradigm is different. So then I understood gender should never be seen in isolation, like figures like this, because it doesn't make full sense, because you're not looking at all the context in which these figures appear. So that's the whole problem with quantitative measurement alone, okay? Now, if we look at corporate women, what do we believe? These women have it all. I mean, these are the who's who. They are coming in huge magazines. So you believe these people, corporate women, have extreme agency. Means they are the ones who make or break decisions in a corporate, and they are also not just anybody. They're on the helm of affairs, And when I was interviewing, I had a huge sample of CEOs and managing directors and vice presidents and executives who I was interviewing. And all of them would fall into this category. But when I spoke to them, I found very different stories. So I'm going to share them with you. Before that, a few more figures. Just have a look at this. Work and home. This is the big issue for work-life balance, is one of the biggest issues. And you can see this. Again, this is 2019 figures. I'm sorry, I couldn't get 2023 figures for this. And you can see here, in terms of domestic work, the orange bar is longer. In terms of caregiving, orange bar is longer. In terms of employment, the orange bar is shorter. Of course, this is not for corporate women, it's generally, if you look at employment and work-life balance. I'm just trying to put perspective before we go. If you look at work participation of genders over the years, that is from 2014 to 2023, you can see that it has increased comparatively. Marginally, yes, it has increased, but it's way below the men. Now you have to understand, there's one incident which happened, which I'll never forget, when I was doing my research. In Bombay, where, it's the financial capital of India, and so I had almost 2 months, I stayed there just to interview almost 60 women executives in Bombay itself I had interviewed. And in that process, when one day I was traveling in the bus and I was a bystander, I saw this. So there was one lady who got in, and you have these seats designated for women in a bus. And there was one young fellow sitting on that seat. So in came this lady with a handbag on her. She came and said, "Ujja, jaga hamara hai. Get up." And then nahi uthunga, he said. Then she showed him that, poster which says reserved for women. And then he got up and he blew up, okay? He gave us one long speech because there were many women in the bus. And he said, "Kya bhai? Har jagah tumhara ye hai. Okay? Bus mein reservation, office mein reservation, position ke liye reservation. तुम्हारा reservation कितना ज़्यादा है? हाँ, एक पूछ रहा हूँ. Like, I hope you understand Hindi. So he's saying, what is the level of reservation you people have? You have a reservation in your job, you have a reservation in the bus, you have a reservation in a train, you have a reservation everywhere. And just please understand one thing. One job is there, one promotion is there. There are 100 men competing and 2 of you. And you will get, we won't get. So what kind of reservation is this? He blew up. And everybody started telling him, gave him speeches back on how much we have. This is the payment of, suppressing women over 100 years. So now you have to pay for it, kind of arguments. But that whole conflict stayed in my mind. Because see, this is exactly creating a gender bias with a gender bias, So I've been thinking about it a lot, and I kept thinking, what is this? Okay, now I want you to park this thought. I'm playing the devil's advocate. I'm playing both sides. In fact, after this, I went back and started reading about discrimination men face because of gender issues. And believe me, there is research on it. And there is, not a big body of research, but then I was thinking in the future, I need to research this, to understand what men feel because of excessive protection. Okay. Now, going forward, I'm going to revisit this question again, so please park it somewhere. Now, if you look at the McKinsey report, which is again a global report, and it talks about gender bias, and they also, in other countries, racial bias and gender bias mix, creating one unique situation. So if you're a colored woman, that is woman of color, or if you're a man of color, you face gender bias or bias. You also face because of gender, but you also face because of race. And if you look at a few more startling figures, before we go to that, there's one more thing, that these biases are impact. The one thing is a bias, the second is the impact. The bias faced by racially different people and also by women, when they face a bias, what it does to their morale is much higher than those people who are born entitled. Okay? That means if you tell a woman employee her work is not good, and you tell a male employee also his work is not good, let's say it's an HR report, it comes equally to both. The impact it will have on him will be lesser than the impact on her, because she is conditioned to think she's not good enough. While he is not conditioned like that. Okay, I did these mistakes, I'll overcome it next. That kind of thing. This comes because of the upbringing itself. From childhood, you're told you're not good enough, then and remember, this not good enough comes in different ways. It may not come from your homes, but it can come from school, it can come from other institutions in society. So in what you call as absorption of certain ideas inside you. And that is why this whole idea of self-empowerment, which was told to you from the morning, is of great significance. Now, going further, McKinsey also did some more studies, and they said, okay, ambition. Are women actually ambitious? Are they becoming less ambitious? And they said, so sorry, women are highly ambitious. And women are, in fact, it's more after the pandemic. It seems when you study ambition, it's higher in women after the pandemic, simply because pandemic allowed them to get work-life balance in a great way. Now you could work in your own space and you could work efficiently. See, what happens is, in most organizations, we have a bias, which we call as heroic masculine culture. That means it's a macho culture in organization. You're measured by hours of work. Now, a woman can typically put lesser hours of work, simply because she has to go home and cook, she has to do something. So come 5 o'clock, she's packing her bag. What is it seen like? It is seen like, oh, she's not interested in work, right? But she may have missed her tea time, she would have cut her lunch time, she would have done so many things to achieve that timeline when she can go at 5 o'clock. But we don't give importance to that, because we are looking at it like, when did she clock out? So these kind of beliefs of measurements come from an achievement-oriented culture, which does not look at achievement in a different way. This is changing heavily. So lucky for you all, by the time you go out, you have these hybrid work modes. That means nobody is watching you. Deliver. This is the time to deliver, you deliver. Whoever delivers, how you achieve it is your wish. So the pandemic actually created a high degree of flexibility for women, and that's why probably their ambition has become higher in terms of that. The other thing we talk about is the broken rung. You must have heard of glass ceiling. Have you heard of glass ceiling? Glass ceiling, think we have a ceiling which is made out of glass here. If you look up, you can see the sky above it or the room above it, but you can never reach it because there's a glass. So that's what women were allowed. They were allowed to watch the top positions, but they're never going to reach it. So that was called the glass ceiling. Today, the glass ceiling is shattered in many ways. A lot of women climb up to high positions. The very fact that I did my research means there are women on high positions. But the thing is, we have other things. We call them glass cliff. Glass cliff is a phenomena where a woman is promoted to the highest position when it is difficult to achieve. That means she's bound to fail. That's called a glass cliff. Today's new concept in gender language is broken rung. Broken rung means they say, see, you also have a ladder, he also has a ladder, but rungs are broken in your ladder. That will ensure that you don't climb. So this kind of a thing that the middle positions which allow you to get certain skills are not given to you, so you can't climb up so fast. So these kind of things are now talked about in corporate culture. You may hear about it. It's good to know it. You may not face it. I hope so. So if we look at it, the next is susceptibility, and I told you about microaggressions today. And microaggressions, you can see here, they are everyday oppressions that can go unseen because they're so small. Somebody winking, somebody touching, or standing too close to you, or those are all called as microaggressions, or they are intimidating you. I think you should know this, and you should know how to handle it also. Okay. Now, as women, not only we need to understand microaggressions, but we also need to know how to protect ourselves from microaggressions and how to deflect them. It seems women do two things. One is called code switch. Code switch means they try to act good and nice so that, this is adaptable behavior so as to not get attention. This is one thing which they do. The second thing they do is they think of quitting a lot more than men, and they also feel burnt out, fatigued, because they are constantly handling microaggressions. Microaggressions are small things. In fact, one woman told me in one of her interviews, she was saying, I was asking how many, since you are women, do women head these sexual harassment committees in organizations? She said, yes. I said, do you get reports? She said, not much. I said, why? She said, two reasons. One reason is, if they make a complaint, whole organization will say, oh, bah, usse dur rakho bhai, because she is a problem character. So then you'll find your team doesn't want to work with you. So many things start happening. So the price of it is too high to pay. So they won't complain. The second things which happens when she says is, a lot of time women are the cause of the problem also. Let's face it, though it's our gender, let us admit that a lot of problems can be caused by us also. And so sometimes the whole sympathy is not is rightly towards the guy. And then it becomes very difficult because the law is more partial to the woman in terms of these issues, while the fault could be a woman's also. So while we are raising awareness to our children regarding gender issues, what we have to encourage them further is to be a good person that is above gender. It is not about being male or being female. It's about being good, ethical, and upright. And whether it's a man or a woman, if the case presents facts where a man is being treated badly, you should be able to act. You should not allow your gender language or your gender obsession to deflect you from the truth. So this is what we have to keep in mind when we look at such cases. Also here you can see this microaggressions and marginal thing. So women of color face 5x times of everything. So the small box is male and the colored box is what females face. Everything has a higher impact, especially in microaggression for women. So we have to be aware of this, okay? The other thing we believe is that women will benefit a lot with all these, technology allows flexible work life. We think it's a benefit for women, but sadly to say, or nicely to say, men are equally happy with this because they also need time with their families. They also would like to be around their children. So it's not just women, actually both men and women prefer the flexible life thing. So it should be actually looked at an agendered view, but it's not like that. Many people think, okay, only women have this problem, okay? So I'll go, I hope I have the time, or am I getting too slow? Time, okay. Now there is some another index which is called Gender Social Norm Index, okay? So GSNI basically looks at biases which exist, and this is one snapshot of 2023 to tell you that we are not off biases as yet. As I told you, it takes 131 years according to their report. So you see this, 9 out of 10 men and women both hold biases against women. And 2 out of 5 people believe that men make better business people. And on average, you can see very less people go climb the C-suite. Only 11% of head of states are, women. So here you can see the gender-based. Even if a woman is more educated than a man, she gets paid lesser than a man. So there is inequity of pay. So we see that statistics are not, and biases, when they took random, you can look at, they have taken data from 80 countries. It's not 1 or 2 countries. And from 80 countries, they have found that Only 27% people believe that women have same rights as men, and that's essential for democracy. That's a very small figure, 28%. 27%, and 28% that university is more important for men than women. 46% people believe that men should have more right to a job than a woman, and 49% believe that men make better political leaders than women. Okay? So look at these statistics. They clearly show that biases against women exist. Okay? Now the question is this. On one hand, there are social expectations, cultural beliefs, and there is a need for individual expression and freedom. So between these two opposite forces, how do we find our agency? How do we find our meaningful way of being? So this is the question we're going to address now in the last few of these slides. Now, actually, I did a study where I picked up two theories. One is Bourdieu and McNay. I'm not going to bore you with all this. I'm just going to tell you about this theory about society, how society and individuals interact. Once you understand that, you can appreciate how we can negotiate our freedom and still respect our past. So for that purpose alone, I'm going to use this theory. Okay? Now, it's based on Bourdieu and McNay. So Bourdieu is a sociologist, and a very old Piri Bourdieu, French sociologist, while McNay, she's a more recent author, and she spoke about performative agency of women. Okay? Now, if you look at society, it has structure. Okay? And look at society. Society will insist on following the rules. Why? Because you want perpetuity. Over generations, you want that to be followed. Then only it becomes a society. Now, for example, you all know that before the pandemic, the hostel had its own way of, teaching its ways of being to the next generation. And then came the pandemic, and we had a disruption. Now, third year, second year, first year, all were new. Nobody knew what was the history. So we had a time, we had a few of the seniors who belonged, luckily, PGs and PhD scholars, who took inordinate trouble, and also the teachers, to bring back those systems. Because systems allow continuity. A society needs that, So society will always try to maintain its status quo, because it has to perpetuate. And it will punish the people who don't follow it, correct? So whoever acts like John the Baptist, gone, even if he is right? Whoever, now Christ comes and talks about compassion to otherwise barbaric world, crucify him. So what do? We do not accept new things easily. So this is the nature of society. Now, so in sociological terms, we call it field and doxa. Field is nothing but all the changes which are taking place in the macro environment of a person, setting, what you call as. And doxa is a word which talks about unquestioned ideas that you absorb from society. And I found, when I did my research, all women executives, with an exception of 10 out of my 125 women, believed marriage is essential. Family is essential. Where did it come from? Doxa. Oh, sorry, this one. Then if you look at, the doxa is a collective thing. We individually download some parts of the doxa into us, and we call that habitus in sociology. Habitus means we are habituated to it, so we think it's right. It is something which our parents told us. For example, if you come from a middle class family, you believe working and studying is important. That's the only way you'll get security in life. That is habitus, which has come from the doxa. You pulled it down and you made it your own. So all of us have some unquestioned beliefs which we have in the habitus. And when it is expressed in the form of the body, in fact, Bourdieu calls it like embodiment, like gesture, manner, language, schemes of thinking, all that they call it embodiment. Let's not go into the technical parts of it. Now what happens is, on the other side, you have the need to be your own person, okay? And that we call it as agency. And if you want that agency, and this doxa or habitus is pulling you other side, so you are balancing these two things. Your culture says something, you want to be like that. At the same time, you also want a certain kind of freedom. So what we do is we reflect on this, reflect this side, that side, this side, that side. And that creates what you call as your self. And the self-control, that who you are, gets defined by these opposite forces, okay? And that is why in every society, when women or any section of the society changes, they call it a nuanced agency. That means they become agency, they experiment, but they won't fully do it. They'll do it with respect to their society. For example, one of the doxa principles of our life, our Indian culture, is take care of your elders. Would you all agree on that? Now you want to work, that means you're not available at home to take care of your culture. Plus your parents also want some freedom. So you know what we come up in India? Top floor, down floor. Parents on one floor, you on another floor. Or one house, half. Or we come up with, have the parents nearby. So you take care of them, you give them freedom. They give you freedom. So we have found a nuanced agency. Now you feel family is important. Children have to be taken care of. You cannot, this is non-negotiable. I'm a mother first and then a job goer. So then what do? You will get, okay, maternity leave 1 year max. After that, what to do? So what you will do, you'll request your family to take care of your child, or you will find some reliable people who will take care of your child. So here, you're not abandoning your job as the mother, but you have nuancedly changed it so as to adapt two things, your freedom to work and this. So if you ask an Indian woman what a job means to her, what power means to her, it's very different from what a Western woman will tell, because their doxa is not the same as ours, okay? So this is the interesting part of thing. And these regulated, modified liberties get performed again and again, and over a period become normal. And that is how societies grow and societies change in the long run. So these opposite powers are powers of nature, okay? Nature always thinks will be an opposite, pulling and then maintain the balance of everything, okay? Now having said that, I think I should jump this. We have gender bias and everything. Are you interested in this, to understand this, or it's too heavy already? Okay, I'll just talk about one thing, coping strategies, okay? Tomorrow when you're going to be working women, this will be useful. So that's the only thing I'm going to go into. Just click on that. Women, executive women, I asked them many questions, you know, how do you really cope with all this work-life balance, this issue, that issue? And they gave me some interesting answers, so I'm going to just share those with you. So you see, one thing they said is multitasking is a way of life. You have no choice about it. And they said you should know that work-life balance is not the same throughout your life. It'll change. When you have a baby, it changes. When the child comes to 10th standard, it changes. When your parents get older, it changes. So you have to manage work-life balance differently throughout your life. It's not like only when you get married. They said, you add value to society, you have to remember that all the time. Don't think that you are just short playing everywhere. I'm not good enough a mother, I'm not good enough a worker, I'm not good enough. These kind of thoughts, they say, you should avoid. Then you can't perform otherwise. And they also said that you have to prioritize and you have to increase your visibility. See, one thing women do is they expect people to notice they work hard and give them promotion. Well, a man will walk in and say, hello, I have done all this, please give me the promotion. And it's okay. Why women have to think somebody should notice them and then they should ask? No, you should also go and say, these are the jobs I've done, this is what I'm good at, can you please give it to me? So this is called visibility. Okay, don't talk when you haven't done it, but only if you have done it, then you should say that. So have visibility, have backup plans, and make mental shifts. And they say, children, one of the things which women carry a lot is guilt, that they have not been good mothers. I mean, they're not good housewives, they're not good daughter-in-laws, they're not good wives. This can be quite a nagging pain for women. So I asked them, how do you handle that? How do you handle guilt? And I got some lovely stories on this front. So there was this mother, one of the executives, who told me this story. I won't reveal her name and research confidentiality, but I will just tell you the story. So she told me that her little child came to her, who was just about, 8, 9 years old, and he said, Mama, I went to this birthday party of my friend, and his mother baked a cake. She baked it. She didn't buy it like you. She baked it. So this bothered her like anything, because now the child is feeling that I don't do. So she waited. It ate her up like a worm in her head. And then she went in the night and sat by him and said, do you want mama to stay back and bake cakes for you and take care of you? Would you want it? Because if you say so, mama will do it for you. Then he looked at her for some time, and it seems he said, and mark the answer of a child, no? Said, no, mama, you don't have to do that because you give me other things. And she asked, like what? And she said, like you take me on these expensive holidays which couldn't have been possible until you were working. Like your name comes in paper and then I can say, see, my mama is a big person. So all these things are what you give me. And then he said, and mama, I didn't tell you, but that auntie, she picks up the phone and she's talking to her friends and she says, you know what, I have a headache. All these children are on my head. Children hear that. They'll remember it. And she said, the big lesson that my child taught me that day was quality of time is extremely important. It's not just giving time to somebody. It's quality of time. It's a quality of attention. And so you have to understand that when you negotiate many things, give importance to the quality of time, not to the fact like, oh, I'm there the whole day, but I'm cribbing about my kids. That's not quality time. So it's more important to have quality time, they said. And there are many stories I heard like this. And they said, that, see, even if I give a phone to my child and I tell them, even if I'm in a board meeting, if a call comes on that phone, I drop everything and walk out. Then another thing they told me, bring children to your office. Children have to make a mental image of where their mama works, where their papa works. Bring them to office, show them. So that in their mind, they have made an image on how their parent is spending time. So these kind of small cues, but a lot of them I garnered as a part of it. And maybe I should have made it into a book, which I didn't. But any case, so those are there. And then they talk about how to give self-time. And then I asked them, what about mother-in-law problems? Okay, now these are also real problems. So how do you manage mother-in-law problems? Because they're part of work-life balance. And then one lady told me a very interesting thing. Firstly, this woman was in shipping industry. And shipping industry is notoriously masculine in nature. In the industries like that. There are very few women working in shipping industry. I remember going to her office and sitting in the port. We had the sea behind. And she was telling me about how she is a Maharashtrian who married a South Indian husband and South Indian mother-in-law. Mother-in-law did not approve of her being itself, okay? So she told me I had a lot of problems with her. She had complaints about the way I keep my house, the way I do my job, the way everything. But I used to always think I'm a working woman, I should treat it. Suppose I had a problem employee, what would I do? I wouldn't blame this employee. I would try to find a solution. So she said I looked at that with her. And she came up with a beautiful solution. Firstly, she told her Amma, she created a bank account with both their names in it. Half her salary, she put it into that account every month. Suddenly her mother-in-law discovered it and she said, Kya matlab hai? I don't need your money, okay? My son will give me the money. Who are you to give me this money? She said, Amma, I'm not giving you the money, you earned it. She said, what? She said, look at this. How am I able to work? Because you are there. Whom does the salary belong to? Both of us. So therefore, it's a joint account and the salary belongs to both of us. You have every freedom to withdraw it. She got angry, and she said, I don't need your money and all that. But 2 days later, she warmed to the thought. Third day, she withdrew some amount for buying gifts for her grandchildren. And then she came and told her, you know what? I withdrew money from there to buy grandchildren. I didn't take from my son. Then she said, Mama, you don't have to tell me because this is yours. You don't even have to tell me. Then slowly they became very good friends, okay? Because see, a lot of our older women don't have financial freedom. They had to depend on their husbands, depend on X, Y, Z, son, somebody for money. Now, if the women in the family get along, believe me, that family will work brilliantly. It's as simple as that. And that's true about women organization. If the women get along in an organization also, it will work brilliantly. So anyway, so what happened is finally the conflict was solved and today both of them go together everywhere and ditch the men in the family. So that is another thing which happens. So the coping strategy is a great thing. And when I looked at biases, I found that the heroic masculinity bias was very high. I'm not going to explain these biases to you, and I don't want to color your mind either. But sometime, if you're interested, I will tell you. So overall findings was the patriarchal culture dominates in India. Okay, it's a male-dominated culture in India. Society devalues the social and familial role. We don't count that as a job, you know. And gender bias exists as general disrespect for women, okay. Low perception of bias at work. In fact, most women said they enjoy work because work gives them freedom. Work gives them agency. Work gives them a sense of being. So they like work. The bias is faced in society, extended family, general comments, but not at work, actually. Means there are biases at work, but they don't perceive it as bias. You know why they don't perceive it bias? Because in their doxa, family comes first, work comes second. They look at work as luxury. So they don't feel the bias. But where you feel the opposite, then you will feel the bias, you know. And career is seen as an avenue of self-expression, and they have high self-confidence. Most women I met, I just admired their degree of self-confidence. It was really a treat to see so many women with such high self-confidence. Okay, so, you know, in my whole thing, what I found is, I'm going to just put only the findings. There is a problem. If you are too educated and too think you don't get partners, or you're labeled as too independent. I think many girls hear this, "Jada mat padho, shaadi nahi hogi." Or you may hear that if you earn more than your husband, then how will it work? You should not grow in your... There are women who have given up positions so as to maintain familial peace. So this is there. But there are, let me be fair to the other sex also, there are house husbands. Men who have said, you work because your salary is more, I'll take care of the child. And there are such great men also in society, okay? Then we have boss at work, subservient wife at home, role problems. You go to work, you have to act like a boss. You come back home, you have to be subservient. It's sometimes hard, no, to play these opposite roles. But then women do it, okay? Then passive acceptance of bias is there in many places. Many people think, yeah, I took break because of maternity, so I don't deserve the promotion. People say this. So I found that. I also found that a lot of things are changing in society. Then I found another thing. Bias is perceived only in terms of home in sometimes, because they say that in families, the extended families, without family support you can't work, okay, such high positions. So family supports them, but the extended family, that aunt, that uncle, that all the others, no, grandmothers and all, will have 100 comments to pass. So that's where they feel it. And they have internalized a lot of the masculine culture, so they don't question it, which is your habitus. I found that. Conscious of, yeah, but some bit of reflexivity is also happening. And today we are finding agency with nuanced agencies. That means we find modified joint families, hired help, coping strategies, seeking the support of your spouse in child rearing. All these are the new things which are coming up. But for all of them, motherhood is first, marriage is first, and then comes job. So they say if you want a career, please marry a guy who supports your career. That's the least you could do. And fit the cultural role, but find fulfillment. So you see this? Indian women have taken nuanced agency. We won't go for full agency, and I'm happy about that. You know, the West is retracking every feministic attitude they had. Radical feminism, everything. Today they're coming backward. And it is stupid for us to follow the West on this. We should follow our own culture, our own upbringing, and yet find fulfillment in its nuanced manners. Okay, so I just wanted to close with one idea. So we need inner transformation and agency. Beyond our gender, we are people. And beyond our human existence, we are divine. So if you remember, our empowerment comes from our divinity, then we will grow up into balanced human beings, and therefore balanced in all our roles. In fact, I had read this, this is a very beautiful thing which I use for my awareness class. I just pulled it in because here we have BA children also. Beginning you live because the world defines you. What the world says, you do. So you live in a culture scape. The day you try to find your own voice, you become, it's called the awakening. You choose, you live in the world you choose. Now, for example, you're here. You can go by what every girl says about you. Or you can choose to focus on a few things you want to focus and live that life, correct? Don't you have that choice? So that's the choice. Then if you go bigger, like if later you start finding that nothing is wrong with the world. Swami says always nothing is wrong with creation. It's our vision which is okay, not okay. So you start looking at your own attitudes which are blocking you. And that's called recoding of self. And when you start recoding yourself, that is when you come to your true empowerment. And when you come to that true empowerment, you can become extraordinary. You can become like those people who change the world. So we all hope and pray that all of you become such people, because that's the kind of man-making or woman-making or character education that Swami has given you. And we think that you will ride this whole gender business with elan. You will have no problems if you discover who you are. Okay, thank you, Saina. Any questions, or we can close? Question? Yeah. No. It's Pinterest. Have a look here. It's Pinterest. Yeah. Huh. Okay. You sent me a video. All right.
Think it's appropriate. You can just show. It's on women empowerment.
Okay. You sent it to my phone?
Phone.
My phone is there. Oh, can you?
Or I can connect it.
Yeah, if you can connect it, that's best. Yeah. Yeah, so child, you can finish your question till then.
Saram ma'am, I was just thinking while you were giving your presentation, me and my friend just had a conversation about feminism in the dining hall while we were having our food. We were discussing that West had this radical feminism very strong, which is being negative. Whereas India also has feminism, which is kind of cultured. We are...
they call it womanism. That means you're not competing with the other gender, but you're being who you are in a better manner.
Yes, ma'am, actually.
That is called womanism. Yeah.
Ma'am, I had this particular thought. We use this word man-made world. But on the other hand, it's more of women-made world. Women is a person who rears the child from...
That's what I'm saying. If you go into the gender vocabulary business, no, then we have to say he and she in every sentence. We have to say chairperson and not chairman and all that. You know, this whole language thing can get... Of course, please use the right language when you go outside, because you can get sued for it. But otherwise, I think we should hang a little more. Because finally, whether you call it man-made, woman-made, or whatever, those who make. That's it. I mean, why bother what they call it? You know, you just do what you have to do, and you know, as Swami says, just keep doing. I mean, the credit comes or not is the work itself intrinsically is fulfilling. When you are a mother, you have a joy of being a mother. How does it matter whether the world understands it or not, whether they call you whatever they call you? It's like that. So, joy is inner.
Thank you, ma'am, for the answer. I would like to say one more last thing. I have seen my mother, who is both working woman and a housewife at home. She is the caretaker at home, better word. So she's a teacher at school who shouts at everybody in the class. And then I see her there shouting, scolding at them. She comes back home, serves us the same food with so much of love. The shouting that she has done in the school is out of love, but the same food she serves us is also out of love. That's where I felt that working women are more empowered. Even I say, this is
I think one thing which working women do, I mean, that was what even the researchers tell, is that, you know what happens, women have a lot of capability, right? Even if they are at home, choose to be homemakers, there's nothing wrong in that. But then you make your home your enterprise. That means because if you're not engaged, And if you don't use your potential, then you become toxic, really. Women have tremendous potential. If you don't harness it, they'll become a menace to themselves and others. But when women go to work, the good thing happens is they raise their children differently. Their son sees the mother or daughter sees the mother go work and come home and all that. So a little bit of the patriarchal values will go down. See, we blame men for their patriarchy, but who rears men? Women. Who has taught them those ideas? Women. So somewhere we should stop blaming other people and start taking responsibility for being women. And that is empowerment. Correct?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Sarah, ma'am.
Hi everyone, welcome back once again in another video, and this is Yashoda. And friends, if you are new over here, so please make sure that you have subscribed to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you can easily get notification when I'll upload videos on my channel. And friends, tell me, are you thinking about learning this language? Do you want to do a good job, or do you want to go abroad? And because of this purpose, you want to learn English language. You have watched so many videos and still you have so many questions in your head, like where to start, what should I do, should I purchase a course, or should I join an institute to learn English language? Should I focus on grammar, or should I give too much time to our listening practice? Friends, first of all, I would like to tell you one thing, that I am not an English trainer, I am not an English teacher. Always I am trying to learn this language, because I am learning this language, and each and every time I am trying to practice my English. Because in my house, I don't have that kind of environment. Okay, so
Thank you so much, madam, for your valuable insights on the need and importance of agency in women because of how prevalent gender bias is. And I'm sure that all of us now also have a better idea of how development of nation is directly and in a huge way dependent upon how empowered women are. And now I request Dr. Geeta Bala Madam, Dean of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, to give away the memento to Dr. Suma. Thank you. With this, we come to the end of the first day of the two-day Techonomics workshop. The second day proceedings will resume here at MMLC Lab tomorrow at 9 a.m. All those who are interested, please join us. Yes. Yes, ma'am. All those who are interested, the Humanities plus the other students who are interested and teachers also can join us. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.